What is going on, Ape Nation? Finally, we've made it to the last part of this Marc Cohodes interview. So this is your part 5. This is the last part, but don't be sad because I drop videos just like this one every single day. With that being said, please don't forget to hit that like button so that the YouTube algorithm shares this with as many apes as possible. And also, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe because, like I just said, I drop content just like this every single day. And now, without any further ado, let's get into this video.
I'm a victim of a whole lot of things, but I sure don't feel sorry for myself, nor would I ever want anyone to feel sorry for me or anything I do. But it's a tough gig speaking out and trying to expose shit that's very wrong. It's a thankless endeavor, and you sure don't do it for the money. You do it because you want to move the needle and leave the world a better place than when you arrived, which I think I've made a difference in a whole lot of people's lives and in things, but it's jungle out there. Jungle rules apply. And if you don't realize you're in a jungle, you should probably get out of the game because it is as cutthroat, ruthless as you can find. I mean, this is just a tough business, but I'm a tough guy. I mean, I am a badass when it comes to this stuff. And I'm not afraid of anybody, and I'm not afraid of much. And I just sort of try to let the chips fall where they may. But these prime brokers are, and the system guys are a dastardly bunch. I mean, they are a dastardly bunch who has no problem cutting your throat, your firm's throat, individual's throat at any point in time. So just kind of a word to the wise of what can be out there, but it was a miserable time, and bad memory.
Thank you for walking us through that. And believe me, it pains me to have you go through that again, seeing the pain that it brings up for you, that PTSD, as you alluded to, is like, but I think it was really important or imperative for people to hear your story, to know how long you've had skin and soul in this game, to know where you're coming from, whose side you're on, to see what can happen to even somebody like you that's running a sizable fund and what they can do to you. And it pales in comparison to what they can do to the little guy, and to see who you've been fighting for throughout your career. I think it's really important for people to see, to know your perspective. And when you talk about the other nuances to the story we're seeing, to know exactly where you're coming from. You know, part of that makes me think about, as you said, you have the guardrails of short sellers like you to fight these frauds in the market and to short these frauds. If they've now become so scared to short the market because they don't want to get their face ripped off on a short squeeze, and they go away, what are your concerns about those guardrails on the short side going away if now everybody's just on the long side and we're on this over leveraged long side here?
Well, are we ready to wind this down at some point? Because I figure I'll close this with something exclusive, even though my lawyer has sent it to people in the media.
Absolutely. Let's start with, what is your solution? What are letters? I mean, I know your tongue in cheek say they should put you as SEC chairman, but what would you do?
That's not going to happen. Well, yeah. I'm so pissed off this past weekend watching the media misinformation that's out there. I decided to write a letter with my lawyer, and it went out today, and I've sent it to my lawyer sent it to different people at the media, but it's basically to Sherrod Brown, who's the chairman of the Senate Committee on Banking, Elizabeth Warren, senior member, Committee on Banking. It's going to Maxine Waters. It's going to AOC. It's going to some other people. And it's entitled Hearings Regarding GameStop, which they've announced they're going to have. So I'll read it to Real Vision viewers. Maybe it comes out in the media, maybe it doesn't. But if it doesn't, here you go. Honorable Senators Brown, Warren, Congressman Waters, and Ocasio-Cortez, I write to you on behalf of my client, Marc Cohodes, a private investor living in California. I was a federal prosecutor for 16 years, including several years as the U.S. Attorney in San Francisco. I have significant experience representing short sellers and prosecuting and defending people in accounting and other securities cases. Neither Mr. Cohodes nor I or ever have had any direct or indirect financial investment, short or long, in GameStop or AMC, the subject of recent press accounts and planned investigations by congressional committees. Instead, we are concerned about public comments that incorrectly criticize market skeptics and short sellers and ignore market manipulations by supposed long investors. For more than 30 years, Mr. Cohodes has regularly provided valuable and timely information to the United States Securities and Exchange Commission and the Department of Justice about companies engaged in fraudulent accounting and business practices such as Learnout and Houseby, MediaVision Technology, Novastar Financial, Aremasoft, California Micro Devices, Network Associates, Take-Two Interactive, Krispy Kreme Donuts, Boston Chicken, and others. Some executives were criminally prosecuted, like the founders of Learnout and Houseby and executives of MediaVision. Between 2003 and 2005, Mr. Cohodes disclosed the manipulations at AAI Pharma, which led to the SEC and U.S. Department of Justice actions. The Harvard Business School published a case study in March 2013 about his successful efforts to expose the Novastar financial fraud in a short seller's battle. During the past few years, Mr. Cohodes correctly identified Concordia International and MiMedx, among others, as companies that had improperly inflated their financial results through accounting tricks and manipulations. He has been an outspoken critic of both. In the case of Concordia, the company's CEO filed a meritless defamation case against Cohodes, which was later dismissed and the company collapsed as a result of its poor management and improper conduct. In the case of MiMedx, the CEO of MiMedx used his political influence with former Senator Johnny Isakson to cause the FBI to send 2 federal agents to Mr. Cohodes' home to threaten him into silence. It did not work. Ultimately, MiMedx withdrew multiple years of its own financial statements, and the CEO and other executives were fired. 2 MiMedx executives, including the same CEO, were convicted of financial fraud in the Southern District of New York last year. In sum, Mr. Cohodes has a proven track record of identifying companies whose financial statements and public statements provide false information to investors. And he's a successful short seller. That means when he identifies a company engaged in accounting misconduct, false statements, or fraud, he invests so he will profit if and when the stock price goes down. Though short sellers are sometimes vilified, there's nothing wrong or nefarious about taking a negative position about a company. To the contrary, legitimate short sellers are among the best investigators I've ever met as a prosecutor. They actually read the financial statements and disclosures companies file with the SEC. They investigate company claims and they often report their findings to government regulators. There are no better sources of skeptical research than short-biased investors because unlike the hordes of people who make investment decisions based on nothing more than someone in a magazine or online tells them, short sellers do the work. Because of the effectiveness, short sellers are often attacked personally. Mr. Cohodes has been threatened multiple times, and as I noted, when now convicted criminal used his financial influence on a senator to intimidate him. The companies that attack short sellers are often the ones that hide a lot. Long investors who attack short sellers are often engaged in pump and dump, a manipulative scheme in which long investors convince uninformed investors to buy, claiming great prospects for a company, and sell stock before the market learns the truth. It is against this background of many years of experience that we write to volunteer to have Mr. Cohodes testify before the Senate Banking Committee and the House Committee on Financial Services. If you fail to listen to individual investors like Mr. Cohodes, whose commentary ultimately protects small and less sophisticated investors, you instead condemn all short-selling based analysts and investors, you will undermine the federal security law's goals of an informed market and will set back civil and criminal security law enforcement dramatically. We look forward to hearing from you regarding Mr. Cohodes' offer to testify. Thank you in advance, David W. Shapiro.